process go?
Yeah, evolution. Evolution was a minor part of my ministry because I thought the world was ending. And so all that stuff didn't really matter, and I wasn't that informed about it. I just knew that it was bad. I knew evolution was bad. I didn't know why, but it was bad because it goes against the Bible. And if you're the kind of believer I was, they're not all this way, right? A lot of them accept evolution, but I was this extremist fundamentalist. It contradicts the Bible, and therefore it can't be true. Anything that goes against the Bible must be false by definition, right? And if you go into the Creation Museum in Kentucky, that's what you see. They have these side by side. Human reason says that the Earth is 3.5 billion years old, that life is 3.5. But the Word of God says. And so you decide. And so it's like side by side, and I'm thinking, easy decision. But in my process of learning, it wasn't until I was in my early 30s that I actually started to read about evolution, because I thought, if I'm going to preach against it, I should probably learn something about this, right? So I'm reading it, okay, here's what evolution says. And I was reading Stephen Jay Gould and others, and here's what evolution says. Wow, that's pretty cool. Oh, that's what evolution is. Oh, I didn't know that. I had a totally wrong idea. I had a completely wrong idea what evolution was. I thought it was this force. I thought evolution was a force to change. And when you read about it and you see the elegance of it and the elegance of the idea, not that extinction is a great idea, then I became for a while one of those theistic evolutionists, Christians who think that evolution was a tool that God used to create life, right? And I would ask these young earth creationists and these anti-evolutionists, who are they to tell their God that he could not have used evolution? I mean, are they tying God's hands? If God did it with evolution, that makes God even greater. Wow, that's a pretty cool way of doing things, right? And yet they're so convinced that God could not have done it that way. But there are a bunch of believers who are theistic evolutionists who think that, yeah, let's accept the facts of science. The Roman Catholic Church has no problem, right? And there's a lot of modern liberal Christians who don't have a problem. And so it wasn't a big deal in my ministry. It was a big deal in my learning, not just for atheism, but just for knowledge, just for science. And it's beautiful. It's just amazing how your brain gets locked out of certain truths because you're committed to this in this way. Yeah?
I'm wondering about morality, particularly like non-theist morality. Do you find more in common just between different immorality between non-theist groups all over, or more regional divides like you do with religion?
There's a bunch of different moral philosophies that people have come up with. I think at the street level, forget about all the philosophers and all these formal systems, right? I mean, they're important, right? But most of us don't live our lives there. Most people sitting in a pew, most of us human beings are basically humanistic in our morality. What we do is to try to avoid harm to other human beings, and by extension to other animals on the planet, and even by extension to the planet itself. But basically, we all know what morality means. It means don't be a dickhead, is what it means. We all know that. Basically, morality is no big mystery. There's no big secret to morality. And yet in religion, they put a big capital M on it. What is the source of morality? How can we not have morality without absolute standards? You hear that all the time, and I do a bunch of debates on that. Non-believers, atheists and agnostics, of course there's no creed. We don't all sign off on some system of thought. But most non-believers that I know, I'm guessing 80-90%, would call themselves humanists in some form or other. Meaning that the basis for value does not reside in the mind of the big daddy up there, but it resides in human needs and human nature, human wants. That's how we make our value judgments about what human beings are. We're biological organisms, we're animals in a biological, natural environment. And morality is basically just minimizing harm. Harm is natural. Harm is something real. It can be the elements, it can be disease, it can be invaders, it can be hurricane, it can be whatever it is. It can be hunger, it can be... harm is a natural thing, so its avoidance is a natural exercise. We need to learn as much as we can about what causes harm. A lot of it's already built into us. A lot of it we don't have to decide. We come because our parents our ancestors decided for us. Our ancestors survived by making. I was in the Detroit airport in 1989. I was going to the Phil Donahue show, national show, to talk about atheism. And I was changing planes, and I was in this line, I wasn't thinking about Jesus or Jehovah or God, or I wasn't even thinking about how can I be a good atheist? How can I show the world? I was probably just thinking about the show. And there was this couple in the next line over here that had a little baby in a baby carrier on top of the luggage thing, about like this. And I wasn't watching it, really, just a crowd of people. But out of the corner of my eye, I saw that baby kick. The father must have wandered away or something. The baby kicked, and that baby carrier started rolling off the luggage. And I just, like that, immediately, no thought, I just reached over, my fingertips caught that thing. And then, about a second later, the mother grabbed the other side, and I said, that was scary. My heart was pounding. And I didn't even want to let go for a while, but it's her baby, so. And then you should have seen the look she gave her husband. It was like, so that was not conscious. There was no rational deliberation. I wasn't thinking, what is the proper course of action here? What would cause more harm? What moral philosophy should I employ? None of that. And you would have done the same thing. Right? Any one of us in this room would have done the exact same thing. Why? Why did I do that? It was almost like a non-mental, it was almost like a biological thing that just happened. It's just like instincts that we have. And Thomas Jefferson even talked about that. He said, we have a lot of animal instincts that make us feel good. At first I was scared. I told that woman, I was scary. And then later I was glad, and it was like I was watching myself act. It was like I wasn't doing it through any conscious thing. Obviously, there had to be some subconscious, quick analysis of the situation, But I didn't stop to think, what if I miss and I accidentally contribute to the harm of this baby? I might get sued, And when I was looking at that woman, did I say, okay, reciprocal altruism. I did you a favor, now you owe me one. Did I say that? Right? Or did I say, by the way, I'm doing this to glorify God? I want you to know that Jesus is real. Or did I say, I want you to know atheists are good people too? There was nothing like that. We all come prepackaged with a whole bunch of animal instincts, biological instincts, that are good for the preservation of the species. They are rough, though. They're not always right. What if the floor had been slippery, right? Or, it was a quick thing. Even our rational abilities to make judgments about how to avoid harm can be wrong, because we might not be as informed as we should be. Should I dump this chemical in the river or not? What chemical and what happens? There's a lot of. If you have the time, there was no time when that baby was falling, but if you do have the time to think about things, then you should apply not rules and not commandments, not some absolute rule, but you should apply a principle of how can we end up with the least amount of harm in the world. That's what morality means. What's the least amount of harm? And even if you goof, even if you're wrong, if that's your intention, then you're a moral person. And you learn from your mistakes, and you try to be more educated next time. That's what morality means. We try to figure out what's real consequences. So yes, this is a consequentialist idea, and I think most of us kind of agree with that explicitly or not. Some people say it's a bit of a utilitarian idea, although I don't know how you could possibly compute the greatest number for the greatest good. That might be an exercise for a government to do, but for us in our daily lives, we're just getting through life trying to end up with the least amount of harm. I think that's all there is to it. We can learn from laws, we can learn from social mores, and those can be good or bad too. Our own reason can be good or bad, and our instincts might be good or bad, but taken together, we can try to chart a course that has less violence and more understanding in the world, and that's what morality is. It certainly doesn't come from following a code like the Ten Commandments. Only 3 of the Ten Commandments have any relevance to modern American law: killing, stealing, and perjury. And even those are not absolute. The first 4 Ten Commandments are not moral or legal things at all. They're all religious rituals. What day of the week you should worship, what kind of speech, what kind of art you should make, and what kind of God you should worship. So